Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Riley Finwood, and you're listening to As Within, So Without. This is the episode we've all been waiting for. I'm finally going to talk about the actual gateway process, or what you can achieve with proper brain hemisphere synchronization. We're also going to talk about the infamous missing page of this document, page 25, and its two missing points. The implications of where it skips are suspicious, to say the least. Now I'll stop talking. Play the music. Welcome back, y'all. Last time we talked about the absolute. We talked about Ishtak Bentah. We gave a lot of history, a lot of context. We talked about the cosmic egg. Today, we're going to talk about the actual gateway process. So let's just jump right into it. I don't have any cool introduction stories today. Nothing's really been going on with me other than the normal stuff. So, I figure why just beat around the bush? I don't want to beat around the bush today. Let's just get right into it. So we know that hemisync, or hemisphere synchronization, can ultimately allow our consciousness to travel outside of time and space into what's called intervening dimensions. And we also have what's called the absolute, which is where energy is at complete rest at all times. Not at all times, because there is no time in the absolute. It is just the absolute. And basically, our universe is a series of interactions between energy at rest and energy in motion. This is what they describe as a hologram. Our individual consciousness is also its own hologram. And when it interacts with this hologram, the universal hologram, that's how we can perceive things. It's how we can form thoughts and perceptions. It's how reality is basically a system of interlocking or interacting forces of energy. So now that we're quickly caught up, let's move on to the actual gateway method. They start off this section by saying this won't happen overnight, even using their method, which was supposed to be a shortcut anyway. Remember, I talked about the different ways you can reach hemisync: transcendental meditation, biofeedback, hypnosis. In terms of how long they take to master, it goes from shortest to longest. Probably hypnosis would be the shortest. Biofeedback would be second. And then transcendental meditation would take the longest. Usually that takes years of training to accomplish. And then the CIA, their method using binaural beats does take some time, but I would say it's closer to around how long it takes biofeedback. And they also say it's very dependent on the individual and how sensitive their central nervous system is. Basically, how sensitive you are to frequencies determines how quickly you can achieve hemisphere synchronization. They say once you figure out how to do it, by listening to these tapes, you learn to visualize something called an energy conversion box, which they literally only devote one sentence to this concept, and the most that I could glean out of what they mean by that is taking your external thoughts or your thoughts about what's happening around you and putting them into a box and converting them into just pure energy. That's what I got from that. And then they say after that, you use what's called resonant tuning. This is where you strive to resonate with a particular vibration by humming along with the chorus of the binaural beats contained in the gateway tapes. Think chanting Om during meditation. It's a similar concept as resonating with your chakras or energy centers using different chants. Then you do affirmations. It's a statement to the effect of realizing that you are more than your physical body and deeply desire to expand your consciousness. Side note here, affirmations are a long-held technique that help you change your belief systems, often used by self-helpers to change their negative thinking patterns. I do these in the morning, stuff like, I am strong, I am confident, I am successful. A lot of times it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson over some fiery, emotional, motivational music. The idea is that soon you start to believe these things as you resonate more and more with the concept. The key is saying, I am something, like in present. not I wish or I will, as those statements depict a state of lack, a state of not having yet what you want, and you will stay in that vibration of lack. So just a quick summary of what I just said, because I know it went by really fast. You listen to these tapes, which are binaural beats. Then you put your thoughts in an energy conversion box and convert them away into just energy. Then you tune to that frequency that you're hearing using chanting. Then you use affirmations to get out of body, basically. So once those steps are completed, you are then exposed to the hemisync frequencies, and these are a little bit different as you focus on the systematic relaxation of your body. As this process occurs, they use white and pink noise to put the physical body into the right on the threshold of sleep, as well as calm the left hemisphere of the brain. Remember, the left hemisphere is the logical thinking side of your brain. And quick caveat, I know that there has been some controversy within the last few years about left and right brain hemisphere stuff when it comes to functions of your brain. And what they came to the conclusion of is, yes, the left and right hemisphere of your brain are responsible for different tasks. The issue was people were trying to attune this to your personality. It doesn't really have an effect on your personality, and that's where the biggest controversy came from. So yeah, quick caveat there. That was just a quick tangent. So basically, like I said, you're putting the left brain to sleep. You're putting your thinking to sleep. You're going to be right on the edge of falling asleep, basically. But then you raise the right brain to a heightened state of alertness. This is what the white and pink noise are for. Once all of this is achieved, you are to envision an energy balloon. Imagine energy flowing from the top of your head all the way down in all directions to your feet. Focus on this energy going back up through your body and out through your head again. This is going to seem much like the cosmic egg or torus pattern we discussed last episode. The purpose of this is twofold. 1, to achieve a resonant state necessary for astral travel. 2, to protect you from lower energy entities you may encounter when you go out of body. Think about that for a second. It doesn't expand on that at all. I wish it did. But the fact that they have to say that, what entities are they talking about? What do we need to protect ourselves from? Is it demons? Is it fairies? Is it ghosts? Is it dead people? Is it aliens? Is it Bigfoot? Is it Mothman? No, it's your mother-in-law. Oh, who knows? We got to protect ourselves from something. That implication to me says a whole lot, as much as it says absolutely nothing at all. And I'm very, very disappointed that there is not more information on that, but that is all I have to offer you about what they're not telling us about some things. Maybe it's just a precaution. Maybe it's just like, I don't know what we're going to find. We're like consciousness astronauts. You know, there may not be aliens on Mars, but we might as well bring guns just in case. So the next few things I'm going to talk about are the techniques that you can use once you're in this state. Once you're out of body and you have access to intervening dimensions, what can you do? I was able to divide these techniques into 3 categories. The first one being healing, the second one being remote viewing, and the third one being reality creation. So let's get into those. The first one is healing. It was kind of frustrating reading these because I was easily able to divide them into certain categories, but they skip all around, and me and my slight OCD brain were like, man, they could have at least just ordered these in groupings of similar techniques, but they don't. They just skip all over the place. Anyway, I'll make it easier for you because I did all the work. CIA, I did all your work for you. All of it. 100%. Color breathing is the first healing technique that they talk about. They also talk about something called the energy bar tool and living body map. But the first one I want to talk about is color breathing. So this is where you imagine various colors in an intense and vivid manner to induce healing in your body. The colors correlate to specific energy frequencies or amplitudes that cue your mind to resonate with in order to balance the body energy flow in certain areas. For instance, blue can decrease swelling and red or yellow can increase it. I first thought of chakras and their correlating colors, like root chakra is red, But it doesn't really mention those in this section, and I can't really assume that they're correlated. And like everything else that they talk about in this section, they don't explain how they got this information. It's just information that's listed in this document. So yeah, color breathing. You basically breathe colors into different parts of your bodies, and it's supposed to be able to heal you. Do with that information what you will. So the energy bar tool is the second healing technique they talk about. Okay, so this literally starts talking about occult practices and folklore. So they start talking about magic scepters, staffs, maces, wands. It suggests that these items are symbols in the universal consciousness, the universal unconsciousness, or archetypes. Think Carl Jung, that represent power, essentially. I found this strange that they mentioned this, so I flagged it in my notes. Also, not sure what to make of it, as it's only a few sentences, and I felt it necessary to include because wands are, one of the things often used in magic practice. I just find it interesting they have no trouble mentioning the word occult, but never mention astral travel, astral projection, souls, anything like that. And soon we're going to talk about the religion section, the belief system implications section that they have, and that's where the missing page comes up. So back to the energy bar tool. Basically, this technique recommends you envision a dot of light that you charge, essentially until it pulsates. This is a magic practice, charging items with energy. A lot of you will probably know about that. Then you extrude the dot into a staff of light that you use to channel energy from the universe into parts of your body for healing purposes. So just to reiterate, it's using the power or energy of your unconscious mind, the archetypes associated with these objects. Using visualization, you create a magic wand out of energy and then point it to the owies, the boo-boos, and it's supposed to heal your little scrapes. Apparently. Okay, the third and final healing technique is called living body map. This is another healing method, which is a mix of the color breathing and the energy bar tool. You imagine the colors mentioned in the color breathing technique coming out of the energy wand and apply those energies to specific places on your body. Bing, bang, boom, you're healed. So it's basically using your magic wand to poop out colors. It's just I don't even know why they included this here. It's just the first and the second one mixed together. So that's healing. Like I said, they don't give any examples. They don't give any reasoning behind this information. They just write it down. So interestingly enough, you can use this energy bar tool to remote view. And here's how they explain how you can do that. You can use this energy wand to create a portal to travel to other places. They once again go back to using symbols to explain this. The portal represents a gateway to your subconscious in order to give it instructions via symbols. This is what I would consider a chaos magic concept, so communicating with your unconscious mind to get results in some form in this reality. Remote viewing is our next set of techniques that they say you can do once you achieve hemisync. The first one is traveling to the past. This requires an even higher state of consciousness than the other advanced techniques. It adds other layers of sound to the hemisync tapes. The trainers at Monroe say that less than 5% of people going through this training can actually achieve this state. It's rather vague about what's meant by traveling to the past, but what I'm gathering is that it means you can access parts of your personal history for the most part, but it also mentions parts of the past with which you have no personal connection with. It doesn't say if you're just an observer or what. But the assumption I made was that your consciousness actually travels back in time and becomes an observer of past events, which makes sense if time does not really exist, technically. I guess if it makes sense. None of this really makes sense. I'm trying to make sense of the vagueness of the explanations. So the most advanced technique you can use is traveling to the future. Again, very vague. Just says how you probably won't get this far, which I think is rude and wow, just go ahead and defeat me out of the gate. Anyway, it doesn't mention if you can change the future, just view it. If there, is there even a future? Is it real? Is there even really a past? If time doesn't exist, does it matter? Oh no, I'm getting overwhelmed by nihilism. I am overwhelmed by nihilism. Nothing matters.
Please pardon the interruption. We'll be taking a short break. mental and emotional reset achieved. Continue directive.
Pardon me there. Anyway, so just to reiterate, remote viewing is simple in concept, but probably the most complicated one when you try to sit down and think about it. Your consciousness can travel to the future and the past, hypothetically. Remote viewing. So in terms of reality creation, we have the first one called problem solving. The second one is called patterning. Problem solving, in this case, you can bring personal issues to what's called your higher self. This is your own expanded consciousness that can interact more directly with the absolute. Sometimes you get an immediate answer. Sometimes your intuition becomes heightened the next few days, and a solution will come to you in the form of inspiration. That's all that says there. Patterning. This one is pretty intense. This one is probably the most interesting one that I will talk about, and it's my favorite. This technique is goal-oriented, meaning if there's something you wish to accomplish in your reality, you can project the desire into the universal hologram. This is based on the methodology that by projecting beliefs or thoughts based in the reality we wish to bring about, it creates that reality in the universal hologram and exists within it. It becomes real in the universal hologram. In essence, our thoughts have the power to influence the development of reality in time-space. But there is a condition. It must be extremely intense in vibration. The further away from your present reality, your goal, the longer it will take the hologram to orient you correctly in time and space to make the goal a reality. The trainers at Monroe Institute have a warning about this technique. Attempting to force the pace of this progress too much may result in your dislocation of your personal reality with drastic consequences. It's that vague and doesn't explain it any further. It doesn't tell you what can happen to you. I just imagine breaking through the ripples of space-time and just, you never existed. That's worst case scenario. I don't think that can happen to you. I don't think it will happen to you, but I don't know, just be careful. Don't try and create a reality where you are supreme ruler of the earth. That could cause some, I don't know. I'm still overwhelmed with nihilism. I want to come up with something clever and funny here. However, the implications of what I just said are weighing down on me. As if I am Atlas carrying all of Earth. The crushing weight of this responsibility is too much to bear. How can I go on? Anyway, I hope that made sense. If it didn't, let me know. So near the end of this section, it talks about the potential of information acquisition of these techniques, especially the remote viewing ones, as it relates to traveling out of body. So spying. They're talking about, can they use this to spy? Of course, this was probably the main purpose of this study, or one of them. That's arguable considering the implications of the missing page. However, of course they're thinking about this. They thought about this during the Cold War, the ESP project that they have, Project Stargate. I keep forgetting the name of that. I don't know why. It's very important. So they set up an experiment. Here's one of the experiments they actually talk about. So they set up an experiment where students on one end of the country attempted to astral travel to the complete opposite end of the country and read numbers off a computer screen. What happened is that they could get enough of the digits correct to prove their consciousness was there, but none of them ever got all 10 digits correct. And here's how they explain this result. This seems to be a function of the fact that physical reality in the present is not the only holographic influence which the individual may encounter in an out-of-body state. There are also energy patterns left by people or events occurring at the same physical site being viewed, but from the past rather than the present. So what does that mean? I'm not entirely sure what that means. I get the idea that maybe it's residual energy they're talking about that distorts perception. It's saying that because of the nature of time, you're not going to get exact results all the time. It's not going to be reliable. It's not going to ever be 100%. It's going to be close, but it's not going to be close enough for us to make military decisions off of, is I guess what they're talking about here. And then it goes on to talk about how thought forms can intermingle and interfere with energy patterns in this realm. So this next section sort of bounces off of this and kind of starts to get into, again, the motivations of the CIA to conduct this study. This section is called Belief System Considerations. And here they talk about similarities of this theory to mainstream religious and philosophical belief systems. They take this quote from a book called The Secret Oral Teachings in Tibetan Buddhist Sects by Alexandra David Need and Lama Yongden. And I quote, "The tangible world is movement, say the masters, not a collection of moving objects, but movement itself. There are no objects in movement. It is the movement which constitutes the objects which appear to us. They are nothing but movement. This movement is a continued and infinitely rapid succession of flashes of energy. All objects perceptible to our senses, all phenomena of whatever kind and whatever aspect they may assume, are constituted by our rapid succession of instantaneous events." Then they attempt to take several examples from religions and try to kind of make them make sense with the hologram. For instance, the classic description of the universal hologram is to be found in a Hindu sutra, which says, "In the heaven of Indra, there is said to be a network of pearls so arranged that if you look at one, you see all the others reflected in it." They say the concept of the cosmic egg is well known to scholars familiar with the ancient writings of the Eastern religions. That's pretty vague, kind of just open-ended. It's trying to justify. It's trying to make all the religions. It's trying to claim that the religions are not put in danger by this belief. They go on to say that the Judeo-Christian idea of the Trinity fits pretty well with the description of the absolute as presented in this paper. The description of energy totally at rest in infinity fits the Christian metaphysical concept of the Father, while the infinite self-consciousness resident in that energy providing the motive force of will to bring a portion of that energy into motion to create reality corresponds with the Son. This is also because in order to attain self-consciousness, the consciousness of the absolute must project a hologram of itself and then perceive it. That hologram is a mirror image of the absolute in infinity, still exists outside of time and space, but is one step removed from the absolute and is the actual agent of all creation, all reality. And that the eternal thought or concept of the self which results from this self-consciousness serves the... And then the page ends, and then we lose a page. We lose the rest of that thought. So I can't even complete that thought because we skip over point number 35 and 36 and go right to 37, which is called motivational aspect, which I'll talk about in a second. But we need to talk about why this cuts off right here, why they just take out this one page. I'm under the impression that they had to remove that page in order to declassify this document. I don't have proof of that, obviously. It's just sort of a gut feeling that I have, because we're starting to talk about really, really global implications of this study. And I think even bigger than that, bigger than proving whether or not this theory of the universe is true or not, I don't think that's the point. I think that the point is they would have to concede a little bit of the idea that they may have influence over our beliefs, like a lot more influence than they're willing to disclose. They don't want to give away, I don't know. Why would you... It's hard to gather your thoughts on this and say it in a way that won't get me flagged. You know what? I'm already flagged, probably. Never mind. The fact that it cuts off in the middle of a section called Belief System Considerations is huge. It brings a lot of questions to mind. My first gut instinct was PSYOP, or psychological operation. I think that, you know, the CIA deals in information. It's in their freaking name. You know, the way they release information over time, how they release it quietly, they know some of us are going to listen. They know the ones who are listening are going to be kind of vocal about it. I think they want this information to spread, but only parts of it. Just a little small window, and they won't let us see the whole picture. I think that's something we're going to have to find out ourselves. I don't think they want to deal out all their cards. And some of you may say, well, of course they don't. It's a national security issue. Maybe I'm just mad. And maybe I want to believe that they have this super secret influence over us when it could just be as simple as something as national security. But I don't want to have that conversation because I want to stomp my feet and be a brat about the government. I think that's what it is. But yeah, I something doesn't sit right with me there. If they're going to release this whole thing, why take out that one page? It could be a multitude of things. It could be a multitude of anything. And I don't want to jump to conclusions. I just wanted to tell you what my gut was. And I don't want you to take my gut feeling as fact. I want you to question this on your own. The document's really easy to find. If you don't want to go through my show notes, you can just Google CIA Declassified Gateway. And you will find the document. You can read it. It'll take you maybe an hour. You can get to the missing page. You can decide for yourself why it's missing, what's in the page. It's up to you. We're coming up to the end of the document here, though. Point number 37 is called motivational aspect. And it just basically reiterates the idea that their method of using binaural beats for the gateway process is a shortcut. You know, it'll take you probably years of discipline and faith to achieve the transcendental meditation method. It says that the more uptight somebody is, or the more energy blocks, or how stressed out they are, or their ability to relax, their sensitivity to frequencies, all affect your ability to do this. But they also say everyone can do it if they practice, basically, which is a big concession to make. It's a huge concession to make to say that all of humanity has this extremely powerful consciousness. I don't think that should be discounted just because I'm a little bitter about the missing page. I think that is huge. I think this document implies some very, very important milestones in terms of spirituality. And then there's a conclusion section, which it just summarizes the whole thing. And then we have some sources. And I think the sources are interesting. I can also post those on the show notes if you want to go check out the books they use, if you want to go check out the papers. Yeah. So that's it. That is the gateway experience. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing, y'all. We did it. We got through it all. So what are my thoughts on it? I sort of sprinkled my thoughts throughout, but I guess for organization's sake, I should probably talk about how I feel. When I first started it, I was very suspicious of it, and I still am. And I think you should be too. I was really excited. A lot of the concepts really excited me. They also kind of freaked me out a little bit, like the hologram. Although the more I read it, and I read it several times, I've probably read it about 10 times, the less the idea of the hologram scared me, because it was just a word they used to explain the concept that we kind of already knew. And then the stuff about meditation, hypnosis, biofeedback, I can get behind, because I have some experience in some of those. I'm not someone who can be hypnotized, believe it or not. I don't think I can be. I've tried, but I've also only done self-hypnosis. But I think I'm too much of a control freak to actually get hypnotized. I haven't tried it, and I kind of want to try it just to see if it's possible. But I already have this mindset that it's not possible for me. So, and it is a suggestive practice. If I'm not open to the suggestion, maybe it isn't possible until I'm open to the suggestion. Then again, oh God, I'm rambling. Okay. I'm supposed to be talking about the document. I'm sorry. I'm a little out of it. The whole thing about sound waves, not sound waves. Well, I guess kind of sound. The whole thing about vibrational waves, I understood all of that perfectly. That made a lot of sense to me. It makes sense to me that our consciousness is in a state of vibration constantly. It makes sense to me that all of matter is in a state of vibration. So this theory didn't really blow me out of the water in terms of my ability to believe something like that. It did blow me out of the water in its scientific explanation of it, and I really appreciated that. I really think that's possible. I think it's in the realm of possibility. I really do. I don't have enough scientific expertise under my belt. I don't have any degrees, although if I could go back in time, I would probably change that. You know, maybe I can't go to the absolute and ask that, because I could probably really mess up my reality. Maybe next life. But I don't have enough scientific expertise to say, yes, this is it, y'all. This is how reality works. But I concede that it's possible. I will concede that it's possible. as far as the techniques go, the things you can do while you are in this state of mind, who's to say on that? I mean, obviously I haven't done them. They don't give many examples. They don't give any experiment claims. They don't give any anecdotes. They don't give you anything. They just say, here's what you can do. So that to me is a little questionable, but considering the nature of the whole document, you know what? Go for it. The biggest problem I have with the whole thing is the missing page. It prevents us from getting a full picture of the context. It prevents us from understanding the true motivation behind this study. And I get the overall impression that they weren't very impressed overall with the validity of using these techniques for military purposes. Does that mean that these things are untrue? No. Does it mean that they are useful to the government? Probably not. But not everything we do has to be useful to the government, believe it or not. I think the biggest takeaway is, I think one of the bigger factors to me in terms of that was my quick study of Ishtak Bentov and how he was, he may have been a part of the government collective, but he seemed, getting background on him, he seemed much more interested on the actual science than helping the government. I think that he wanted to study this for humanity. I just think that the government gave him means to do it. I could be wrong on that. That's what I felt about it. But anyway, at the end of the day, I can't know for sure. It's right about 30 pages of just words that the CIA let us read. So I've read spiritual books about this topic that have expanded on it, that actually give scientific evidence behind it, that actually give results, but again, with that, these are usually for-profit practices, not always, but usually there's some sort of paywall that they want you to buy training from them, or they want you to buy a course from them on how to do it. And I get it. I do. I get it. We live in a capitalist society. We need to be able to make money somehow. And there has to be some sort of paywall. But I think in order for humanity to move forward, we're going to have to learn how to teach people these things, these concepts, these spiritual concepts without the paywall. This is the problem with Scientology, right? It's basically a for-profit business under the guise of religion. And you can say whatever you want about Scientology, but that's the biggest thing is they make tons of money. They charge at least $600 for what's called an audit. It's one of their religious practices, but anyway, I hesitate to believe any of this blindly. I have been trying to meditate and achieve hemisync recently. I got pretty close last night. I had insomnia, and I was up till about 5 o'clock in the morning, so I just decided to throw on some binaural beats from YouTube. I'm not too sure if the ones on YouTube are legit or not, but I tried it, and I think I got pretty close a couple of times. So what it feels like or what it felt like to me, was I was getting into my general meditative state, relaxing, breathing, and I was very, very tired, but I couldn't sleep. So I was already pretty close. And according to Joe Dispenza, you produce the most melatonin between the hours of 1 and 4 a.m., and he quotes melatonin in his book many, many times as saying that it's a very important chemical in the process in your brain for this technique, for this process. So I was getting to the point where I could actually feel my heart rate, get into that heart coherence, and it's hard to explain other than your heart rate really slows down, or for me it did. In me wanting to mentally document the process, I noticed it. So I noticed my physiology changing, and it was where I was right on the cusp of sleep, but I was still alert. Like, I could still form thoughts, although they were kind of coming at me instead of me feeling like I was creating them, if that makes any sense. They were just sort of floating around me, and I could just sort of watch them. But every time I felt my heartbeat slow down, I would get excited or I'd get nervous because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I didn't know if my consciousness was going to go out of my body or what, because I think I'm a little bit afraid of that, because I'm afraid a little bit that I'll never be able to come back into my body. but I get like my heart rate jumps as soon as I notice a change in my body. And I kept pulling myself back out of it. But I think if I can get past that fear, we could actually make some progress on this, and I can actually report back and sort of talk about it. But I do think it's possible. I did make some strides recently in actually trying to physically practice this. But I'm the type of person who won't believe something unless I have enough evidence to back it up. So as far as right now, there's not a whole lot of evidence for me to back it up, but I'm working on it. I think this was a fantastic journey, y'all. This was a very rewarding experience for me. I tore up this document. I made some friends on TikTok. I had a blast doing this. So thanks so much for listening. I will catch you all next time. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. Peace.
Thanks for listening to As Within, So Without. Visit us at aswithinsowithoutpodcast.com for extra content such as blog posts, show notes, and more. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future shows, you can contact Riley directly at riley@aswithinsowithoutpodcast.com. And if you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe to As Within, So Without on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening.